There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am, August 2019, back at my parents' farm. Newly rediscovered boxes of my most favorite books that I kept for safekeeping here at the farm, and I haven't looked at in 10 years. I looked at them last night, so you're not going to see my first reaction, but I wanted to show and tell you about these books. I've got 4 more boxes to show you, 2 more on this video, and then 2 more and we're done, alright? Box F. You don't care the box letter, but this YouTube video will be my memorandum of what I got and which box it's in. A gay novel by David Plante, the Catholic, and the story on this one is, it's a short little novella. I started reading it, I think when I was a grad student. No, I don't know when I started reading it. I see I bought it at a used bookstore, Audrey's Books in Edmonton. I loved the writing so much, and then it just wasn't the right time, and I put it aside for no good reason other than just life stuff. Never got back to it, so that's why I kept it. Uzodinma, Iweala's debut novel. It's really a novella. Beast of No Nation. I loved this. It's about child soldiers. I wasn't as fond of his second novel that was more gay themed, but my memory of this is it was marvelous. Maybe one of my favorite books of poetry by Mark Doty, Atlantis, signed, as is another wonderful collection, Sweet Machine. A collection of short stories by the British Columbia writer Caroline Adderson, Bad Imaginings. I didn't ever read this, but I did read one of her novels, which I loved. It's coming up in one of these boxes. I think this is actually autographed by Edmund White, The Joy of Gay Sex. Just for research, you know, for like academic graduate studies. A picture book about Mandela. Text by Mphahlele. I ended up buying a second copy of this, which I have in Tokyo, but here it is, Now and Then, a wonderful gay novel from the 1990s by a British gay writer, William Corlett. A precious little book, an essay by Mark Doty, Seeing Venice, Bellotto's Grand Canal. Isn't that precious? I wonder if I would still like this novel, The Weekend by Peter Cameron. It's read it twice, but not for about 20 years, and it's an attractive hardcover. Great novel, B Season. I've talked about it a few times on my channel. Myla Goldberg, there's my copy. Classic of the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, 117 Days by Ruth. First, an account of her confinement and interrogation under the 90-day detention law. And I was audacious enough to ask her daughter, the novelist Gillian Slovo, to sign it. And she didn't really like it, but she did it. I thought, oh, okay, I'm sorry I asked. She said, well, I didn't write it. And I said, well, it's your mother. She was much happier, Gillian Slovo, to sign her own memoir, Every Secret Thing, My Family, My Country. This is a pretty good memoir. Not bad gay play, Love, Valor, Compassion by Terence McNally. Oh, it is signed. I didn't remember that I got it signed. Another signed Mavis Gallant, The Other Paris. Isn't that a fabulous edition? This YA book, before there was such a thing as YA, I'll Get There, It Better Be Worth the Trip by John Donovan. It was in our school library, and I read about these 2 young boys kissing, and it scared me and excited me beyond belief when I was about 12 years old, or maybe younger. Picked up a used copy, thinking that I might actually read the novel someday. Have yet to, but it's a very special memory in my life. But this is important just for that one scene that I read while browsing in the school library all those years ago. And I guess it was worth the trip. Looks like a rather academic book about Mandela, Mandela's World by James Barber. I have no memory of owning this book, but here it is. Oh, I don't think I've gone all the way through this box before, so my reaction to some of these is my initial reaction after not having seen these books for 10 years. Jane Hamilton's The Short History of a Prince. I really like this novel, and I kept it. I think it's time for a reread. Collection of poetry by Carol Shields, Coming to Canada. Signed, For Sean, Who Loves Words. Carol Shields, 1993. More poetry by Mark Doty. Turtle Swan and Bethlehem in Broad Daylight. I assume it's signed. I don't have enough time to check. Love this novel from the 1990s, a gay novel called Mysterious Skin by Scott Heim. Haven't read anything else by him, don't know what he's up to, but this was unforgettable. Also signed. He was so cute. Tom Lodge's Mandela, A Critical Life. I'd like to read this someday. This is one of my most favorite gay novels, Safest Houses by Alex Jeffers. Autographed in Boston, 1998. Nelson Mandela, The Early Life by Jean Guilleneau. This was Gillian Slovel's father, the ANC leader. Joe Slovel's unfinished autobiography, which he was signed for me reluctantly. I have no idea why I kept this. Moving on. The Gay Man's Guide for Coping When a Relationship Ends. Why did I keep this? A Place I've Never Been by Stories by David Levitt. I don't remember if I read it. Another autographed book by Larry Kramer, Reports from the Holocaust. Collection of poetry, AIDS-themed poetry, The Virus and I. Poems by Glenn Fenema. I took a writing workshop with him in Key West back in the day. Signed copy of Friend of My Youth by Alice Munro. This one I have read. Don't remember anything about these stories, but it's Alice. Another signed Alice Munro collection, The Love of a Good Woman. This is my favorite collection of Alice Munro's short stories, Open Secrets. This one I want to take to Tokyo, but I don't have room to take it this time. A novel by Michael Cunningham that I was eagerly awaiting, and then when I read the reviews and heard what it was about, I never bothered to read it. It's kind of sci-fi or something. This is my mom's copy of Anne of Green Gables. I wonder if she knows I have it. So that's box F. Amy, did you want to borrow this?
Probably. I could probably use it.
Okay, on to box G. My whole family's watching me do this one. This is one of the best books I've ever read about South Africa, Country of My Skull by Antje Crow. Guilt, the subtitle is Guilt, Sorrow, and the Limits of Forgiveness in the New South Africa. Crow is an Afrikaner journalist, and this is her memoir of covering the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's just incredibly powerful. A work of queer theory, Eve Kozowski-Sedgwick's Epistemology of the Closet. I'm not sure what she's trying to say here, but it's quite well written for academic theory, and I have an autographed copy. Carol Shields' Pulitzer Prize winning, is that right? I think so. I didn't think Canadians could win the Pulitzer. Oh, but maybe because she was born in the States? Because I think this is a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, The Stone Diaries. David Levitt's novel Equal Affections. This is the one I was telling Greg about, with the gay father and son. This is Michael Cunningham's first novel, which he has disowned. He will not sign copies. I think he goes around to used bookstores, buys copies, and burns them. But I managed to get a copy off eBay, which I have not read. Golden States, 1984. This is my favorite collection of Carol Shields' short stories, Various Miracles. Of course, it's signed. Nelson Mandela's memoirs, Long Walk to Freedom. It's not necessarily well written, but lots of important information. I'm glad I read it. Sinclair Ross's collection of short stories, The Lamp at Noon and Other Stories. I absolutely loved it. Peter McGee's short fiction, I think. Yeah, short fiction, The IQ Zoo, published posthumously. My friend Dick Campbell did the cover illustration. Not exactly sure why I saved this. A book of Canadian short stories, Natasha by David Beshmogis. I have a signed copy here. Short stories, apparently very good. Made the shortlist for the Governor General's Award back in the day. Eve Kozowski-Sedgwick's first work of queer theory, Between Friends, English Literature and Male Homosocial Desire. I actually did use these essays as the basis for several of my academic papers over the years. I talked about Carolyn Adderson. This was her novel, A History of Forgetting, that I read. I think I wrote in here the last book I read in the millennium. I read it the last book I read in 1999, and eventually I got it signed by her in 2006. And it was really great. A rather uninteresting sounding memoir Michael Cunningham wrote about Provincetown or something. Land's End. This I would like to try. Colt Toybin's non-fiction book about gay lives in literature, Love in a Dark Time. This is a book that I loved with all my heart. The gay Asian Canadian novelist Wei-Sun Choi's first novel, The Jade Peony. I'm taking this back to Tokyo with me to reread. Eric Carl Anderson made a great video several months ago about short story cycles, and it made me think of this book, so I want to My pile of books I'm taking back to Tokyo is getting pretty tall here, but these are linked short stories by a gay writer, Fenton Johnson, Scissors, Paper, Rock, that I would love to reread as I think about the interesting things that Eric had to say about how we experience short story cycles as compared to short story collections and novels. Signed by Fenton Johnson in 1998 in Boston. Those ones I'm taking. Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. I loved this novel. Would love to take it back. I don't have room, but I will get it back someday and reread it. This is probably the only AIDS fiction worth reading, The Body and Its Dangers and Other Stories by Alan Barnett. So lusciously literary and poignant. This is a memoir by one of Mandela's bodyguards. One Step Behind Mandela. I don't think I read this one. I have another similar one that I read by his prison guard. A collection of Edmund White's essays, The Burning Library. Never read it. I think I have it signed, though. I do. This is one that I don't need to keep because I tried reading it on ebook last year and hated it. Michael Chabon's Wonder Boys. Well, this one's not going back in the box. David Carpenter was one of my professors at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon, and this is a novel that he wrote in the 1980s, I believe, and I have a signed copy. Wasn't very good. So that is
Barbecue on?
box F and G. Thanks for watching.